So a while ago on my Instagram, I made a video basically having another anime hot take. In that hot take, I basically made another, well, it's probably going to be a really bold statement to a lot of y'all, but I made it the statement that the only reason why anime and manga are so popular now and are now mainstream and are surpassing Marvel and stuff like that, like basically comic books, is because Western corporations with these graphic novels won't lock the frick in. And I back that up. You see, the thing is, the comic book economy, the market for it collapsed actually in the 90s. And they haven't really recovered really and truly. But in that time of their collapse, manga was in the US. Manga had been in the US for a very long time by now. So tell me why they weren't out selling comic books then. Because if they were so great, they would have been surpassed them. But that's the thing. That's not the case. So they may be saying, okay, well, that was because social media and stuff like that didn't exist. It was always better. Even then, that's not true. Because a lot of people try to say, oh, their stories are deeper, power system's better, manga will make you feel, it could do this, it does that. Comic books are equally capable of doing all those things, and they have been. But here is the main kicker. Low-key, the problem is a bit complicated. It's split into two halves, so I'm going to only talk about one half. The part I'm not going to talk about is the fact that there are a lot of comic book projects that have been adapted, and it's done pretty well, and a lot of people just don't know they are comic books. Such as Wanted, Push, Men in Black, and most notably, Sin City. So generally speaking, those are projects that even if they diverged a lot from the source material, their divergence still, in a way, was still good. But for the more larger scale, fantastical stuff like Marvel, stuff that involves Marvel, DC, and sometimes even Image, it's gone downhill. But even then, that large scale stuff, the main problem is the fact that they're trying to get into live action. Their first choice should have been animation. And it's not like they aren't good at it. Back in the day, they were really good at it. The Ultimate Avengers movies, Planet Hulk, and Next Avengers Heroes of Tomorrow. They were really good animated movies. And that was back then. Let me show you what they're capable of doing now. Look at this mess. Look at it. This was all for a single, was a trailer for a crap mobile game. And we've seen the constant peak animations of Marvel Rivals cinematic trailers. And X-Men 97's animations was top tier. Their animations was done by the same people that made The Last Airbender. And this is all this large scale superhero made stuff should have been this way. Just like how they get top tier animations for swords in their animes where samurai fight mutant monsters, that we should have been, comic books should have been trying to adapt their stuff into animated format. We're dealing with universes that have cosmic heroes who can take down gods, and they're not the gods themselves. These beings can destroy entire universes and remake them. Yet and still, we're trying to capture these larger-than-life characters within live action? Even besides the whole way it looks and nerfing power levels, there's also another topic that I feel like a lot of y'all may not like the way it sounds at first, but you're gonna have to listen. A lot of these studios are too bent on agendas rather than actual storytelling. And I will back this up. I won't just say, oh, they're so agenda this, agenda that, and I won't back it up. No, I will back this up. Turing is realizing Ryan Coogler did irreparable damage to Black Panther as an IP, and just in general. I'll explain. So first off, ultimately, this guy does not care about Black Panther as a character. All he saw was, black character, powerful empire empire is the most powerful empire on Earth, more powerful than white-led empires. Make movie. Because the thing is, like I said, I'll go into detail. So, you know how he tried to make Eric Killmonger some kind of pseudo-righteous figure, despite what he wanted was straight up evil? Because he had this air around him, this vibe of And everyone else kind of linked up with this vibe of, but he's got a point though. You know what I mean? Because Eric Killmonger wasn't saying, I'm going to take over Wakanda and use vibranium to support poor black communities. No, he said, no, I'm going to get vibranium weapons and give it to black communities so we can fight our oppressors and take over the world. So instead of helping the black community, he was going to lead them into world domination. And he was painted as this pseudo-righteous figure who was onto something. Meanwhile, in the comics, T'Challa, that is, Black Panther, he was the one who was initiating opening up Wakanda and using the resources to help people. It didn't take him killing his cousin. It didn't take no chick whispering in his ear. It didn't take none of that. It was him being raised by his father. Him and his father was saying, no, we need to get rid of these old ways and we need to open up and help these people. Some of these people deserve our help. Ryan Coogler conveniently left out how cool that was. How great of a character T'Challa was trying to help people from the get-go. And speaking of things he changed about T'Challa, before even getting into the comics, it's by this diagram alone, it is obvious that even outside of the Black Panther IP, basically, well, this is gonna sound crazy, but when he was being written by a white man, he was better than when he was written by a black man. Because in retrospect, looking back at the Black Panther movie, I realized, wait a minute, he was kind of just a passive element. Every other trait, every trait in the movie, in Civil War, the movie he debuted in, was given away. Now, let's actually get into the comic books. Ryan Coogler completely stripped away the more magical/mystical side of Wakanda and Black Panther. Each and every Black Panther is a divine avatar of Bast. It wasn't just the first one. Each and every Black Panther is an avatar of a whole god. And that grants them their peak human physical abilities and various other abilities too. He can straight up invoke Bast to teleport him. So Ryan Coogler stripped away his divine abilities, and he completely stripped away his high genius level intellect and gave that to Shuri. No, you don't understand. Dr. Doom himself has stated that in previous clashes, they were equals. Dr. Doom is one of the most intelligent guys in the Marvel Universe. He was intelligent enough to steal the powers of extra-dimensional entities who can one-shot abstract concepts. That is how intelligent this man is. And he's saying, dang, we were chess masters equally matched. That's crazy! When Black Panther lost his powers, he said, dang, you know what, I'll just get him back, and I'll just get him back with alchemy, because I can just freaking do that. And while I'm at it, I'll just whip up my own power system using science and ancient alchemy. And not to mention, Black Panther is one of the best unarmed combatants ever. He can easily duke it out with some of Marvel's best. But was Ryan Coogler trying to find a way to include some of these feats or make things comparable to these feats to show how cool Black Panther is? No. He just made all the Black Panther stories about racism of sorts in some kind of way. Even though not all Black Panther stories are about them facing racism. As a matter of fact, there are several stories that actually kind of revealed that Wakanda ain't no better than the nations they scorn so much. Because the thing is, low-key, Wakandans are equally as bigoted as everyone else. Once Black Panther was dating this black woman, like black woman from America, and he was dating her, he fell in love with her, etc. But she broke up with him because, she's like, babe, yo, people hate me so dang much just because I'm not one of them. I'm sorry, I can't go through with this. I can't stay with you if I'm gonna have to face this day in and day out. And you want to know what Wakanda did when a section of Wakandans went off to space? They colonized entire star systems and enslaved planets, stripped away their memories so they can be that much more malleable servants. Like I said, they ain't no better than anyone else. While there are Black Panther stories that are talking about combating anti-blackness, there are just plain old good stories too. But that's the thing, he doesn't care about the versatility of Black Panther. All he cared about was pushing his own agenda. Moving on from Ryan Coogler, there's also She-Hulk. Now, I'm not going to dwell on this too much because if you guys follow my Instagram, you'll see what I said about She-Hulk, so I'll just summarize it here. You see, the thing is with She-Hulk is that in canon, Marvel has made it their business to not give depth to the Hulk anymore in terms of the MCU. Because in the MCU, they had Jen basically saying, listen, my life is harder than yours, Bruce. Like, she either alluded to this or said it herself directly, saying how, oh, her life is harder than Bruce's because she's a woman. With her saying that, that means that even in MCU canon, they haven't even tried to emulate how tragic Bruce's life is. Because real 616 Jen would have even thought of that. Wouldn't even dare think to say that. Because Bruce, in 616 canon, is literally one of the most tragic characters in all of Marvel. Y'all think Spider-Man is bad? No. Hulk has it indefinitely worse. This man has DID. All the different incarnations you see of the Hulk is Bruce Banner's personalities that he had developed already. But that's the thing. He doesn't care about the versatility of Black Panther. All he cared about was pushing his own agenda. Moving on from Ryan Coogler, there's also She-Hulk. Now, I'm not going to dwell on this too much because if you guys follow my Instagram, you'll see what I said about She-Hulk, so I'll just summarize it here. You see, the thing is with She-Hulk is that in canon, Marvel has made it their business to not give depth to the Hulk anymore in terms of the MCU. Because in the MCU, they had Jen basically saying, listen, my life is harder than yours, Bruce. Like, she either alluded to this or said it herself directly, saying how, oh, her life is harder than Bruce's because she's a woman. With her saying that, that means that even in MCU canon, they haven't even tried to emulate how tragic Bruce's life is. Because real 616 Jen would have even thought of that. Wouldn't even dare think to say that. Because Bruce, in 616 canon, is literally one of the most tragic characters in all of Marvel. Y'all think Spider-Man is bad? No. Hulk has it indefinitely worse. This man has DID. All the different incarnations you see of the Hulk is Bruce Banner's personalities that he had developed already. I don't want to go any further because it will spoil it, but Immortal Hulk because Hulk was already deep. Planet Hulk and World War Hulk already cemented Hulk as a character that has the depth. But if you want to see him get even more depth, go read the Immortal Hulk. All you need is just a basic knowledge of who Hulk is and some of his villains, some of them. I mean, generally speaking, I had little knowledge going into the Hulk, into this comic book, but I was still able to thoroughly enjoy it. So please go read this if you want to understand that Hulk is a very deep character. Another character you probably didn't expect to have like legit through and through depth is Thor. While he's not exactly tragic, he is still amazingly written. This was an absolute mockery of Thor, and even Taika Waititi went on to say, listen, no, I read the comic books for this stuff, and I thought it was ridiculous. Let me just tell you how the equivalent of him saying that about Thor in the comic he especially used for this movie is like saying, oh yeah, I watched Yu Yu Hakusho, and the source material is ridiculous. This story is so dumb. I just couldn't take it seriously. And people might try to say, okay, you're talking about Yu Yu Hakusho. You better be able to back this up if Thor is supposedly that good. The story in which Thor and Love and Thunder was supposed to be based off of was Thor, the God Butcher Arc Saga. This book is genuinely amazing and made Thor one of my favorite heroes of all time. I implore you guys, please go read this comic book. You do not need any prior knowledge to understand this book. The only knowledge you need, it's not, you don't even need knowledge. It's like the only extra knowledge that you can attain is just stuff that makes things that makes you like little trivia stuff and makes the world building even better. And not only that, other things would be like, well, other people may say, well, manga can make you feel. Manga can resonate with your soul and this, that, and the other. No, it does the same thing for me. Comics do this for me too. I'll give you an example of a Thor run that did this for me. Donny Cates' Thor did this for me. It resonated with me. Like the first half with the whole Devourer King arc, that was good, but let me tell you the part that actually resonated with me. Donny Cates' issue of Thor, God of Hammers resonated with me on a very deep level because in this comic I kind of saw myself in Thor. This is gonna be like a little window into my personal life. A little bit of background with Thor. In the beginning, Thor and his father had a really good relationship, and Thor wanted to be just like him. This is like the same case with me and my dad. But as he grew up, as he began to have more independent thinking, it's like he saw some things that his dad did that he didn't necessarily like, and just the way his dad personality that resulted in a kind of strain on the relationship. Now, my dad is no Odin. No, he was not a bad dude like Odin. By no means was he like that. But just in general, our relationship became a bit more strained. And we became a bit more distant, just like how Thor and Odin did. And throughout his time, more in Thor's life, in that era of the distance, Odin started to feel like that he hated him. And my dad has admitted that he thought that that's how I felt about him. And he didn't. Thor doesn't hate Odin, I don't hate my dad. And as a result, later on in the story, Thor eventually did proclaim this, because when his dad was willing to get into harm's way to make sure Thor makes it, he didn't want to lose his dad. And that made me feel. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We're not even talking about comic books, power system, and world building as well. Like, even then, that is stuff that I'm just scraping the surface of myself. So really and truly, I can't completely talk about it, but I can try to do it in the best of my ability. For example, in terms of power systems, one thing I commonly see is that, oh no, comic books don't have power systems. Comic book this, comic book that, and that's a load of baloney. I mean, just for Marvel, it's even then, that's simple to see. Go watch Lionsgate Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme. That isn't a whole thing. The power system isn't a whole simple-minded mess of, oh, I blast you. No, I blast you hard. No, I blast you more hard. In the movie, using magic was a chess match, and it was embedded into the story. Going back to Immortal Hulk, gamma energy and being a gamma mutate is a power system. DC's Lantern Corps. Literally stories about people using their emotions to fight. And the thing is, these different energies can actually counter other forms of energies, weaken them, or enhance them. And at the end of the day, the power is limited by the amount of energy the ring has, but also one's emotions, their own internal battles. Because again, for the people who don't read Green Lantern comic books or don't try to watch movies or anything about that, they won't know this. Because it's not as simple as, okay, blast them until they're down. No. The thing is, if they have their own internal battles, internal insecurities and stuff, that can disrupt their power. To be Green Lantern, you have to be fearless. But if your own fears and anxieties about messing up get in the way, guess what? Your power will be messed up. And that can lead down a deep story on how to deal with anxiety and fear. And even beyond that, I mean, there's ways to enhance your own power still using basically psychological warfare. There is literally a Yellow Lantern whose back is a cage, and she captures the babies of lanterns and she keeps them in her back so she can intimidate her foes. And that crap works. And don't get me started about the world building. Some people will be like, oh, well, One Piece world building is top tier. It's like, yeah, they did all that detail for a single planet. Marvel and DC have built up entire cosmic structure. Alternate universes, alternate timelines, cosmic forces, other realms, and abstract entities. Yeah, well, and while One Piece does have a lot of detail with the planet, Marvel still has a decent amount of detail with their planet as well. Especially in terms of like certain places like NYC, which is brimming with heroes and different organizations and who encounters who. They even created characters to answer world building questions. Like, for example, you ever wondered why it's like, oh yeah, there be henchmen, there be armed henchmen for these different supervillains, and it's like, where do y'all come from? Yeah, have you ever asked that? The man responsible is Taskmaster, one of the best fighters in Marvel due to his photographic reflexes, but he also trains henchmen. That's literally the reason why he was created. Now, I'll give you another example. What do the following characters have in common? The Celestials, the Eternals, Captain America, Doctor Strange, and Ghost Rider. The answer is mutants. The mutants are all key figures in all of those characters' existence. The Celestials created the mutants. As a result of their experiments on the early man, they created the mutants. Mutants expanded upon the magical principalities and realms that Doctor Strange usually deals with. Juggernaut is not a mutant. He is a being, he's a human powered by the Crimson Gem of Sidorak. Sidorak is a powerful magical principality that Doctor Strange often invokes. Y'all saw his spell, the Crimson Bands of Sidorak. That is a spell that Sidorak created, a being that the mutants introduced. Heck, the mutants even introduced an Asgardian fear god during the Fear Itself event. The program that created Captain America, the purpose of that program wasn't to fight the Nazis. It helped fight the Nazis, but it was also designed to help combat the mutant population. Yeah, Captain America was based upon bigotry. Yeah. The mutants also introduced the limbo dimension, which is a hell-like dimension, which is usually the realm in which Ghost Riders deal with stuff. Magic also ruled limbo for a certain period of time. So then another point may be, okay, well, yeah, they may be so great, but they're so difficult to get into. Oh, really? It's so hard to get into. I don't know where to start. It's so all over the place. I don't know which order I should read. I don't know which order I should read it in. And that's the thing, that y'all believe what these people say, where it's like, oh, it's so complicated and hard to get into. Not all the time. Marvel and DC have these things called omnibuses and volumes, okay? Decades worth of lore compacted into giant books. The thing is, what y'all usually do is listen to weebs who don't know what they're talking about, or people, or former American comic book fans who no longer like the medium and now are just consistently crapping on it because now they like manga more. And it's like, okay, and they're not being completely genuine with how things work. So another question, or another reasonable question may be, okay, well, if it's so easy to get into comic books, why isn't it common knowledge? Simple. A lot of Western companies suck at marketing, which is another reason why manga companies work so well. I have seen all kinds of... I've seen Shonen Jump sponsor content creators to talk about their most recent drops and their manga and such like that. Okay? But comic book companies don't do that. Image Comics could fund all kinds of nerdy content creators and talk about their most recent drops and show just how easy it is to get into comic books. And even then, even those content creators can even say, well, I myself thought it was super hard to get into comic books, but actually I was surprised to know that they aren't. Along with that, these comic book companies can go out of their way to make sure and market it is not hard to get into our books, okay? But again, they don't do any of that because a lot of their marketing sucks. Again, going back to the point of the Marvel economy failed in the 90s. They have not recovered because they have not adapted to the modern day times. They're going off of a model that existed since before their downfall, and they have not adapted to the modern day era. So right now, when it comes to manga and comic books and anime, whatever, the battle isn't fair. It's like putting a veteran martial artist who's now injured against a young martial artist who's pretty good. That's not a fair fight. It's like, okay, but he's not at his prime. If we were to put him at his prime, he will wipe the floor with you. Because again, I'm saying comic books can do that. Now, this may still rub people the wrong way because when it comes down to it, they think, oh, manga's super versatile, but comics aren't. But it's not that comics aren't versatile. The only thing they know is mainstream stuff from Marvel and DC that they don't even read. Because when it comes to manga, oh, they'll think about all kinds of stuff, like talking about messages of oppression and mind control and totalitarianism, slice of life stuff, and this, that, and the other. The thing is, comic books have been doing that for a long time as well. Just as not long, if not longer than manga. Let me give you another example. V for Vendetta, Sandman, and Preacher all came from DC. Heck, even Red came from DC. So at the end of the day, what I'm basically trying to say is that we can't be comparing manga and comics right now, because right now comics aren't working at their prime. They're not working at maximum efficiency. Manga is working at maximum efficiency. Because if comics were working at maximum efficiency from the get-go and they never went downhill, manga would have never got as popular as it did now. And just these are just a little more tidbits I want to add on. Because it is no secret that manga does not handle women well in the mainstream genres such as shonen and stuff. It's usually reserved to drama stuff dealing with relationships and stuff. There's no action stories like shonen stories about them. Whereas the Vinland Saga's about women and stuff. Whereas the Benha's not led by a Deku but a girl. You know what I mean? I will admit, there will be times that they can be hit or miss. But the thing is, they're a heck of a lot more consistent than manga. And they don't pigeonhole them to specific things, such as cutesy magical girls, or cutesy shows, or shows based about relationships and stuff. This is a steampunk science fantasy led by women, and it's awesome. Strong, complicated female lead, interesting female villains, and all of them are pretty without being hypersexualized. Check, check, and check. Something like that is rare within the manga industry. But monstrous is stuff like that. That's pretty common. And in this modern day era, they also have an advantage over manga. A lot of these new comic books are diverse, unlike manga. Manga will borrow from all kinds of people and all kinds of cultures, but won't represent said people from said cultures. But anyways, that's just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments.